All right, so we're in Atlanta. It's early May, and we're here for the ISA show, the International Sign Association. This is my first major show in 2.5 years. Unfortunately, I had to listen to this all night. So anyway, my first major show in 2.5 years. I went to a converting convention back in Orlando in October, but it was like really didn't have that many vendors, didn't have many attendees at all. People were still kind of afraid to go out because Omicron was still out there, but this is hopefully going to be a wide open full show. It's at the Georgia World Congress Center, which is an enormous facility. I was in there once about 30 years ago for Comdex, this big computer convention. I don't know if they still have Comdex or not. So it's early. Sorry about the sirens. Headed over. Uber's on the way. So we'll see what we can see there at the show. Exciting times. What a week. So I went to the ISA show in Atlanta, Georgia. It was at the World Congress Center. Georgia World Congress Center is a huge convention center there in downtown. I'd been there one time. I mentioned before, it was about almost 30 years ago. We went to this show called Comdex. I don't know if they have that anymore or not. It was a technology show, computer show. Microsoft, WordPerfect, all that stuff back then was there. So it's the first time I've been back in that building. Since then, I was a young lad back then. I think it was 1994, if I'm not mistaken, 94, 95. The International Sign Association, that's by and large a sign industry show. It's a trade show, and most of the folks that are there are sign industry, signage, LED lighting, channel letter light type machinery and lettering and lighting, the three-dimensional letters businesses use on their signage. There were people there with cranes with buckets, to work outside to put up large signage. Of course, vinyl manufacturers were there. A lot of banner companies, fabric companies, lots of printer manufacturers. With very large printers that printed, like billboard-sized banners. You saw the one picture I posted on my Facebook page. It was a 10-foot wide sublimation printer that Canon makes. Just tons and tons of sign industry products. But so much of that crosses over into the craft and DIY market that we go there too. I love going to ISA and SGIA, or it's now called Printing United, and some of the other shows. I actually prefer those more than some of the others because I get to see things that are kind of outside the box in the sign industry from the craft and DIY market, and what we may be able to adapt and bring over to the craft market or something like that. But then there's also a lot of vendors there that, Caesar was there, B-Flex, all these different companies that make heat transfer vinyl and things. So it's a great show to go to from a standpoint of meeting and working with vendors. It's almost like being on it's like the golf course, this is where deals happen. This is where you get to see people, you get to hang out, you get to go out to dinner and have a drink or whatever with vendors after the shows. I probably saw at least 25, 30 people that over the past several years I've gotten to know and worked with at different times. This is the first show that I've really been to since October of 2019. The world's been shut down for the most part since then. I went to a converting convention back in October when I worked for Cricket that was in Orlando. It was probably a fourth of the size of the one they had in Louisville a few years ago, and there was almost no attendees there. It was just dead. But this show was packed. Business is back. People were there. It was packed. It was busy. I was there early and checked in the first day, and when they opened the doors, there was a huge crowd in the hallway waiting to get in, and everyone was excited to be there and see people. Not just see people, but to see people, see their faces and be able to talk and have normal conversation and meetings and everything with people again for the first time in a couple of years. And it was absolutely wonderful. It was actually quite impactful, and just from a mental and emotional standpoint, it had an impact on me. I've really, I've been traveling quite a bit. Went out to Utah several times when I worked for Cricket, and Tammy and I've been on trips, and we've been spending a lot of time down here in Florida. And I didn't even realize how much of an impact that would have on me to be out there. In one respect, it was almost like walking back into an old high school, because I've been out of the spotlight for a year and a half or so now from a vendor perspective. And it was great to walk back in and just see all these people that I've done work with and hadn't talked to or seen for quite some time. Even had a couple of vendors that recognized me, of course, from my videos, and came and sought me out, and I'd never met them before. So that was pretty cool. That people are that excited that they would spot somebody and come and find you. And people are just ready to do business again and get on with things, I think. And it was really, really great. Every vendor I talked to, all they could talk about was how great the show was, and the turnout and the excitement and the conversations. I'm exhausted. My legs are killing me. My back hurts from walking around that place so much. But it was worth, I told Tammy that it was worth every penny and every minute 10 times over to go to this show and be able to see everybody and hang out and see the equipment. I didn't see a lot of new things there. I did see some things I can't talk about. Saw some confidential things that are going to be coming to the craft market in the next year or two that are pretty exciting. Saw quite a bit of things that are going on out there that I really wasn't aware of, and I don't think anybody's aware of, because everybody's been shut down and not really getting out and seeing what's happening. So we'll see some exciting things coming soon, I think, from some different vendors out there, and see where things are going to go in the market and what's going to happen with vendors from that respect when they're able to really get back at it and really start producing again and making products and innovating again and getting new things out there to people like us so that we can continue to do what we do. I was just really just happy to be out there and see everybody. I could say that 1,000 times in this video. I'm probably going to say it till you're sick of hearing it, because it was a great show and a fun thing to go to. One of the bigger things, exciting things, and hot topics that's out there right now is direct-to-film printing. And there were several vendors there that had different direct-to-film setups. And so to explain to you what direct-to-film is, if you've ever ordered transfers from someone like Transfer Express or F&M Expressions, those are plastisol transfers. So what they basically do is screen print your transfer, and they can do, basically the full color transfers, and they send it to you on a transfer sheet, and you press it onto the garment. And it's more like traditional screen printing setup and creation fees, I guess, how they do it. Because there's typically a setup fee, like maybe $50 or $75 or something like that. And then you buy your transfers, and depending on how many you buy, you get a really good price on them. So you might buy a couple hundred transfers and they're only 25 cents a piece plus the setup fee. And so generally when you do a large run of shirts, so if someone who, if you have a Cricut machine or whatever and you're going to do heat transfer vinyl, and someone says, well, I want to buy 200, 300 shirts for an event, that'd take you a long time to really cut and weed them in heat transfer vinyl. It's also pretty expensive to do that many that way. So it's the best way to do it is to order transfers that are pre-made by someone like that, plastisol transfers, and they'll send them to you, and then you just press them on the garment and they're ready to go. There's no weeding involved or anything like that. So direct to film is a way you can print your own that really you can do short runs. You can print one if you want and create it. And the printers use, the better printers of course actually use a white ink to give a base white opacity layer, and then everything else is printed on top of it. They do full color prints that are really amazing looking. And the way this works is the printers have to have CMYK W, so W for the white. And after the image is printed on the film, while the ink is wet, it goes through. There's a couple of different ways you can do this. The best way to do it, or in the more expensive way, of course, is you have what's called a shaker. And after the image comes out of the printer, it feeds through a secondary device that basically sprinkles this powder onto the image. The powder only sticks to the ink where it's wet, and then it goes through a oven for a few seconds, and it kind of melts that powder, and that's the adhesive for the transfer. And being that it only sticks to the part where the ink is, that's the only place that the powder and adhesive is going to be, and so there's no weeding or anything. And then it comes out the other side, and you have a full color printed transfer ready to apply to a garment. No weeding or anything. Those setups vary anywhere from, the ones I saw that were decent were anywhere from about 8 to 20,000, depending on how big. 25,000 probably, depending on how big and how nice you want them. If you wanted a 24-inch wide printer and a 24-inch wide shaker so that you could print 24 inches and do 2 transfers side by side coming out on a roll and produce, maybe you want to print 20 of them, so it would be 2 by 2, 2 wide, so you put 10 quantities on there, if that makes sense. Then they come out and then you cut them apart. There are other solutions. There are people who are converting an Epson printer. I think it's like an L18000 or something like that, but they don't have the white ink, so it has to go in a light colored garment. Wouldn't be much advantage as far as I see of having that over sublimation, except the transfer can be pressed on cotton, of course, can be put on any kind of light or white colored material. But you just don't have that opacity layer because of the white. The white ink is problematic because it has, I can't remember all the terms. I've heard so much this. I think it's titanium dioxide or something that's in the white ink, and it's not liquid, so it settles in the ink, and those printers have to have something to kind of like circulate that white ink and keep it from settling. Some of the printers, if you're not, before you print, they have like the ink is in like a bag, and you take it out and kind of shake it and mix it up again before you print with it, is what I understood. Now I could be wrong, so if someone knows the answer to that, you can correct me, of course, and I'm sure you will. But the converted printers aren't quite as capable as the full-blown DTF printers are. And my thoughts on that are that I think because of the way the technology works and the process and the way it works, that I think that technology is probably going to come down in price. And I really think that if it gets down to where that is a $5,000 or $6,000 setup to be able to do that, I think it's going to really start to change some of the industry as far as what can be done and how people are going to use it. So yeah, I think this the DTF is going to have the potential to revolutionize part of the market. DTG printers, direct-to-garment printers, have been around for a long time. They've been around I saw them I went to a show back in 2011 in Vegas. There's a show called Magic. It's a huge fashion show where vendors from all over the world come. That was, oh gosh, that was the biggest show I've ever been to of any type whatsoever. It was so large that it took up the entire Mandalay Bay Convention Center, and it took up the entire Las Vegas Convention Center, which are at opposite ends of the strip. And they had buses and car service, tons of them out there to run attendees back and forth at no charge. You just walked out, got into a limo or whatever, and they drove you to the other place, whichever one you wanted to go to. It was just massive. But direct-to-garment printers were around back then, and they had been out for a little bit back then, and they've never really gained traction and taken off. Now, I've not used one, not really investigated them a lot, but what I understand is the hold back on a lot of them are the mechanics, because you've got a mechanical device printing directly on a garment, and that's held back the price coming down on those. And I don't know that they'll ever be able to overcome that. If in a dozen years they have not made strides on those, I don't think they're going to get anywhere with it. I just don't think they're going to ever become a mainstream thing that people are going to, consumers are going to buy, or even prosumers for the most part are going to want to buy and invest in. The DTF, I think, has a lot more potential, has a lot more potential for the price to come down on it, and for that to be a viable thing that crafters and prosumers may be able to pursue down the road. Like I said, I know there are people out there now converting some of these Epson printers and using it for DTF, but it's a little hokey and there's limitations to it and what you can do. I've been told that they don't last very long, but I haven't done it. I don't know. And I haven't heard anyone who actually uses them complain about it, but complain about them breaking or anything like that. So I've only heard that from people who sell competing printers, which is to be expected. So I guess time will tell. Who knows? Maybe I'll buy one and convert it and just play with it and see how it goes. It's certainly intriguing to me enough that it's something I want to learn more about in the near future, and see what's going to come of DTF down the road. Now, one of the things I posted a picture of and everybody got excited about was a Canon 10-foot wide sublimation printer. And then someone commented on it and said, a 10-foot wide heat press too? So the way this works is in the picture that I had posted, I'll put it on the screen right here, they're printing on fabric. And if you look closely, you'll see right where the fabric's coming out, right above that, there's a big long thing that has a bunch of little fans on the back of it, and that's a heater. So as it's printing on the garment, as it's coming out, it's heating it in like a little oven and curing the ink as it's coming out, so it doesn't need to be heat pressed. So they can print very large backdrops and banners. Maybe you printing. I'm sure that it's probably a very similar process when they print textiles for clothing that are sublimation, that has to be full sublimation prints and everything. So some of those things are very interesting to see and see them in action and see what vendors are making them and what direction some of the vendors are headed as well. As far as vinyl vendors that were there, I mentioned that Caesar was there, B-Flex, Polytape, 3 or 4 different heat transfer vinyl vendors were there. All your major adhesive vinyl vendors were there. Orifol, Avery, General Formulations, 3M, all of those guys were there. I got to talk to the guys from Prism Inks. They make sublimation ink and STS inks, and just a lot of different folks. I'm going to say it again. It was great to be back out talking to people and hanging out and enjoying life and business life again. So this fall is SGIA, or Printing United, I guess. It's going to be in Vegas, I think in October. So we'll be going to that. And then in next April, they have typically each of those do 2 shows a year, one East Coast, one West Coast kind of thing. And the next ISA show will be in Vegas in April. And then if I had to guess, the next SDI show after that will be on the East Coast somewhere. Usually they do like Las Vegas, Orlando, back and forth, those kind of things. And then sometimes they have them in Texas, in the Midwest. Yeah, these shows are rocking. People are getting out. People are ready to do business again. Companies are excited to see people ready to do business and spend money again. And I think this is going to be a great thing for the economy over the next couple of years when all these things start rolling again and we start producing. And not everything's going to be good. The economy's probably going to face some even tougher times possibly. And the craft industry, especially people who make and sell gifts and items in crafting, the great thing is in this industry, I hate when people try to push this word recession proof. I just feel like that's I don't know, somebody's trying to sell snake oil or something. But the good thing about the craft industry is when things are really good, when times are really good, there's probably like more stay-at-homes that do crafting and more people spending money on their hobbies and enjoying those things. And so the business is good. And then when times are bad, there's more people trying to make money on the side and make extra money. So it still helps the craft industry. So I think we're in a really good spot in our market, no matter what happens. Of course, I would much rather it be a good economy and much rather be doing it, see the market booming because we're enjoying life than struggling. But when it comes to that, I think we're in pretty good shape. We're going to be okay as far as the market goes. There's some interesting things going to happen. Interesting products that are coming out in the market in the near future. I can't wait to see how they do and where they're headed. And I'll probably be working with some of the vendors on some of those things, see where they're headed. I had some good conversations. See what my next chapter holds. That was another reason I wanted to get out here and start warming up relationships and see where things are going to go for me over the next couple of years. It was certainly great. I met a few new people. I had some great conversations. I just can't go on. I can't say enough about it. So I will stop rambling now about how much I loved being down there this week. My body is certainly feeling it, but I'll recover in another day or two. After I left Atlanta, I flew down here to Florida. We had some furniture delivered, last bit of furniture we were waiting on, and then I fly back home tomorrow. This is 2022 is shaping up to be a really great year for all of us. I hope everybody else is feeling the same thing and feeling the excitement of the world coming back and getting running again. And I hopefully we'll see some more of these shows. I'd like to get out and go to some of the smaller shows, because there's these smaller shows. I think it was the MBM shows they used to have, and some of the others that are going on, and they're holding those again now. So I would like to get out and go to those. Don't know if I'll be able to or not, but we'll see what the next few months holds. And just excited to know that there's so many opportunities out there, not only for me but for all the crafters and the things that are coming. It's going to be so fun and great, and hope everybody gets to see and enjoy those things soon, because it's hard to sit on and keep secrets, but that's the life I lead. So if anybody has any questions or comments, post them down below the video, and hopefully got some more content coming to you and tutorials soon. Just been traveling back and forth right now, and getting plans laid out for some of my tutorials I'm working on, and we'll talk to you soon.